You have your Bibles with you. Open your Bibles to the book of Philemon. We will continue. This is our 9th message from the book of Philemon. We have been talking about reconciliation, and I hope and pray that you have been putting into practice all the principles and all the teachings that we have been learning from the book of Philemon as exemplified by Paul and as instructed by Paul to Philemon in this book. And so, last week, Paul, we looked at the verses 14 and 15 and 16, and read from there that Paul told Philemon that perhaps you were separated from Onesimus, so that you may have him forever, no longer as a slave, but a brother. So the status of the relationship between Philemon and Onesimus changed. When Onesimus became a Christian and a follower of Jesus Christ, he used to be a slave, which was a property of Philemon, but then he became a Christian and surrendered his life to Christ. And Paul said to Philemon, Philemon, he's no longer a slave to you. He is better than a slave. He's better than a property. Paul says he is now a brother. He is now a brother. And so from the lessons that we learned from last week regarding reconciliation and our relationship, first we gather that our relationship with one another is more important than material things. So we don't use people to get material things. We love people. We use material things to show our love for people and to people. And so today we're going to look at verses 17 to 19. So if you have your Bibles with you, open your Bibles to Philemon. We will go to there's only one chapter, of course. And let's look at verse 17 to 19. This is what Paul wrote. So if you consider me a partner, welcome him, referring to Onesimus, as you would welcome me. If he has done you any wrong or owes you anything, charge it to me. I, Paul, am writing this with my own hand. I will pay it back. Not to mention that you owe me yourself. So what can we learn from these 3 verses? Remember, Paul has been an advocate of reconciliation, a minister of reconciliation between Onesimus and Philemon. Paul had an opportunity to share the gospel with Onesimus while he was in prison. Onesimus surrendered his life to Jesus Christ, became a Christian. And now Paul is writing to Philemon, telling Philemon, I am sending Onesimus back to you to be reconciled to you. He is no longer a slave. He is now a brother. He's coming to you. And now Paul says, and I'm asking you, I'm appealing to you in love, that's what Paul says, that you will accept Onesimus as you would accept me. Now ask the person sitting next to you or behind you. Ask him. Said, will you put your neck on the line for someone? Come on. Will you put your neck on the line for someone? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. That is a difficult, that's an easy question if it is someone that you know has been straight all his life, right? But for someone like Onesimus who was a runaway slave. I know you've read stories, of people here in the U.S., who really, during the Civil War, who took the time to put their neck on the line for runaway slaves, right? They even built houses with basement and tunnels. It is amazing. It is amazing what those people did, for the sake of those runaway slaves, just so they can take them to a place where they can be free. It was amazing. And we've heard stories of things like that. And of course, one of the questions we ask is, what if we lived during those times? Would we have done the same thing? Especially if it meant putting your life at risk by putting the other person first and not worrying much about yourself. That is not an easy thing. So the question of, will you put your neck on the line for someone? Again, it's not really an easy question, like I said, especially if it is for someone who probably you don't really know exactly what he will do after you have put your neck on the line for him. So it's important for us to continue to learn from the example of the Apostle Paul, the minister of reconciliation. See, Paul considers himself a minister of reconciliation, and he writes to the Corinthians, remember, and which is to us also, that we must all be ministers of reconciliation. And to be ministers of reconciliation, the bottom line teaching of this passage that we read is this: that we must be willing to put our neck on the line for someone. And that's the only thing you can remember from this sermon today, which is an hour-long sermon. No, it's not. Is this: that if you want to be an effective minister of reconciliation, I want you to repeat this to the person sitting next to you. You must be willing. Come on. You must be willing to put your neck on the line for someone. Wow. For someone. Maybe you are in that situation right now. Let us again read what Paul said in verse 17. If you consider me a partner, welcome him as you would welcome me. See, when you put your neck on the line for someone, that means you are willing to put your reputation at risk. So Paul tells Philemon, if you consider me a partner, then you will accept Onesimus as you would accept me. Paul is saying, I'm putting my reputation at risk here. Now that's not easy. Right? That's not easy. Putting my reputation at risk. That's what Paul is saying here. Now, of course, if it's someone who may be related to us or who we love, then maybe we will do it, right? Maybe we will do it. But for someone that we probably don't even know anything about, will we do it? Someone you don't even know, maybe. Asking you to put your neck on the line for him, will you do it? Again, for someone that we love, someone related to us, someone close to us, many times probably we have done it. But you know what Jesus said to the disciples? He said, if you only do good things to those who do good things to you, what makes you different from a pagan? Even the pagans do that. Even the pagans do that. Even unbelievers do that. On Thursday nights, we've been talking about the trademark of the freedom that Christ has given to us. And that trademark of freedom is the freedom to serve one another in love. To everyone, especially those in the household of faith. You know what? This morning when I arrived here, I went straight, of course, to fix some coffee at the back because Eugene looks for that coffee every Sunday morning. So I have to get that ready. Uh, and so I went back there and I said, oh my gosh, the tables are set, really nice. I said, are the ladies having something going on today? And so I said, well, are we going to use the tables or are we just going to use the other room? I said, well, we'll just promise that we won't mess the tables up because it was decorated. And so when people started coming, I said, is there something going on for the ladies today? I said, oh, no. And so after I said, so I was still wondering what happened. And so I talked to Tina and I said, Tina, is there something going on? Because I know that she was the last one here after we allowed a church family from another church to use our facility because they had death in the family and they needed a place where they can gather the family for dinner. And so Tina volunteered that she would help, and then I asked her, I said, so what is going on? I said, did they decorate the tables? I said, no, Kyle and I did. I said, oh, you didn't have to do that. And she said, well, we wanted them to feel really welcome in our church. I said, wow, well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Actually, I didn't know these people. I haven't met them. Called and asked, said, yeah, actually, we didn't know if we can have it available. But then to go an extra mile to do that, it is something that God would want us to do for someone. Even to the point, like I said, of maybe even putting our reputation at risk for someone who might truly be needing help. Another thing that Paul said here, if he has done you any wrong or owes you anything, charge it to me. When we put our neck on the line for someone, not only we must be willing to put our reputation at risk, but we must also be willing to take monetary risk. You mean it's going to cost me something? Then forget it. I'm willing to do it, but don't ask me for money. Now here Paul is telling Philemon, you accept Onesimus. I know he owes you money. Remember, we have established that. Because he was a slave who ran away. Every day that he did not work for Onesimus was money lost for Philemon. Every day that Onesimus did not work for Philemon was money lost for Philemon. And so we have established Onesimus owed Philemon money. And now here's Paul saying, I'm sending him back to you. Accept him as you would accept me. And if he owes you anything, you charge it to me. You charge it to me. Monetary risk. Sometimes that's the hard part about helping someone, right? Does it involve money? Always does. Always does. Reputational risk, monetary risk, loss of time, loss of energy, lots of risk. But now we have to understand that Paul is simply putting in practical application exactly what Christ has done for him. When Jesus took on the form of man, He put his neck on the line for us. The reputation of Jesus was shattered. He was nailed to the cross with the worst criminal. He died the death of a criminal. Talk about putting reputation at risk. That's what Christ did on the cross for each one of us. And he wants us to be like him. Ministers of reconciliation who are willing to put our reputation at risk for the salvation and reconciliation of another. Did Jesus lose money? Oh, more than that. He lost his life. Again, for us. So the question of why would Paul be willing to do such a thing? It's because he knew exactly what Christ has done for him. And he was willing to do the same thing. For you know what Jesus said to the Father after he ascended to heaven, right? I'm just picturing in my mind, in my human mind, how the conversation went in heaven. Jesus said, Father, you know, a lot of people will be coming to heaven, right? Whatever they owe you, you charge it to me. Whatever we owe God, we charge to Jesus Christ. We've done this for our children. Remember, one of the child broke another child's toy? And just to keep peace, we tell the other child, don't worry, I'll buy you another one. Right? Have you done that or not? We all have, right? Now God is wanting us to do that in a larger scale. We must be willing to put our necks on the line for the sake of reconciliation.